In this crooked game called the conscious community, you have many individuals who are not conscious at all. And many individuals who look at it as a come up and don't look at it to quote unquote help humanity at all. You have one individual who was with a man for a matter of years. That man turned out to be no good. That man turned out to domestically abuse her. That man turned out to contribute to her having a kid as well. While in the presence of that man, she was complacent in doing many things that were not supposed to be done. Some of those things included with children as well, including her own kid. However, rather than own up to her errors, rather than admit that she was complacent in these things, she has now been put on the pedestal by a few select individuals and also by herself. So the "you go girl" syndrome has taken place, whereas the "you need help girl" syndrome has not taken place. Whereas the "you need to stay off of social media" syndrome has not taken place. As a result of this, all of her actions have become justified, no matter what they've been. Be it sleeping around with multiple men, be it doing pranks that many people are emotionally inclined to, be it putting herself on a pedestal, calling her God's child, calling herself an empress as well. All while receiving income for these antics. So when we look at this situation, the enablers will say that she's an example to use, an example of a strong woman who came out of a tumultuous situation. What the enablers leave out is that she was complicit in this tumultuous situation, and that she actually did things that were contributing to that situation being tumultuous. In traditional African society, a mother is nude around the kid only for a certain amount of time. Most of the time, they're not going to be nude around the kid. More times than not. What she did, she took it upon herself to be nude around an adolescent boy, to quote unquote normalize it. While this won't become normal, It just shows complacency in her actions. Now, because of her actions and because of her not taking responsibility and because of the people who enable her, she has now found another avenue. And this avenue unfortunately backfired. Another brother who wanted to take her on, or who wanted to try to heal her, quickly became burnt. Not in the literal sense, but in the emotional sense. Now, granted, I don't know what he is saying, if what he is saying is true or not. I don't know. However, one thing that I found interesting that was said that she didn't disclose is that the baby was fed, her daughter was fed the fluids of her baby's father. Again, I don't know if this is true, but I don't know why this individual would say this if there wasn't some truth to it, even if he is upset with her and how she burnt him. What also must be said is that when the baby's father had an erection, and the erection was in the face of the daughter, very clear, and wasn't a battery pack, she was complicit in that as well, and said that you guys need to cut it the F out, and that her husband, who still is her husband to this day, had a big phallus through the gray sweatpants. What needs to be said as well is that her husband recently revealed that she works for him. And I'm beginning to think that's true, for the simple fact that she talks about him, and as a result of her talking about him, new women go over there. Her and the former members that were there have the ability to put an end to this. But because they were complacent in the things that took place there, they're not going to put an end to it. And that's just the bottom line. Because of this, we have I should say, him still doing what he is doing right now. Because she won't serve him, because they're afraid to say anything. This is why he's still around. And because of this, too, her enablers, or her fan club, you may call it, are unconsciously presenting the image to the youth who may tune in that it is okay to be promiscuous, that it's okay to repeatedly go back to abuse, and that it's okay to, in essence, be complicit in the abuse by not reporting it. And individuals like myself have been villainized for stating the obvious. Individuals like myself have been called misogynist, full of shit, and other things like that because of our stance in this matter. You then have another individual who presented himself as a savior of sorts, presented himself as someone who was going to end this madness, but did not end the madness, but furthermore fueled the madness because he wanted to be part of the madness and wanted to do what this woman's baby father is doing. The blame is on all sides around. The blame goes to him, the baby father. The blame goes to the baby mother. The blame also goes to the former members who are complicit and who were complicit. The blame also goes to the enablers of all of these people who are only enabling because they profit from it, but they won't say that they profit from it. But they do profit from it. So we're left with a couple of things. The first thing is we're left with a couple of conclusions, and I'll end this video after this. The first conclusion is that when the conscious community puts women on a pedestal, call them goddesses, call them empresses, and their behavior reflects anything but that, and they're not held to account for that, then it just leads to more of what you see in quote unquote a secular community. So with that being said, another thing that happens is that the niggerisms that they already had before they came into the conscious community are just disguised and brought out in the name of consciousness. Another thing that happens is that Black Africans from the continent, like myself, hold them in contempt and look at them funny-eyed and side-eyed and have no sympathy for them. Another thing that happens is that they deflect and they say that you act like as if you haven't made any mistakes. The answer to that is that everybody is capable of sinning and capable of making mistakes. However, the one who is sincere will learn from those mistakes and not repeat the same mistakes again. But the conscious community keeps on repeating those mistakes, which is why that we don't welcome them into Africa. Which is why, although we have our problems in Africa and we have individuals who are like this and who are even sometimes way worse than this, are dealt with in a harsh way when found out they are doing these things. So, for those individuals who I will not name, but who know who they are when it comes to the enabling, when it comes to the self-proclaimed Empress, Child of God, and these titles, and when it comes to the person who is trying to quote unquote save the women, you reap what you sow. And so, with that being said, I'm just going to sign off here. And you guys, if this is food for thought, just do the dishes. Fool is signing out. Njaram. I also wanted to say one more thing before I go. If the future generations see this going on and think it's okay, then the generation who is doing it is going to be cursed and punished because of this. But anyhow, this is all I'm going to say. Njaram.